What do I want to get done today? You might find yourself asking that question every now and then. Maybe you wake up in the morning thinking, I need to get these things done today. Maybe you're organized. You've got a list already. This morning I'll do A. Noontime I'll have lunch with my brother and do B. This afternoon, C. Well, you get the idea. Going down the list and kind of checking things off. What am I doing? But am I accomplishing tasks? Or is there something bigger that's going on? Maybe we need to think about bigger things. Maybe think about mission. After all, this is Mission Sunday. It's one of the 2 times a year we talk about missions and missionaries. What is my mission? Sometimes the stakes are higher. Think about that for our first reading today. Moses lifting his arm in prayer as an outnumbered Israelite army is defending itself against the Amaleks. Consider that story of Moses. He's praying during the day, and as he prays, Israel is more than holding their own against a stronger foe. But as he grows weary and his arms in prayer drop, the fighting goes badly for the sons of Israel. Aaron and Hur come by and have Moses sit on a large stone. They lift up his arms for him that he can keep praying. And by the end of the day, the Israelites prevail. Maybe on a more personal level, think about the gospel, the story of the widow who's seeking justice from a corrupt judge. It's vital for her, and her persistence eventually pays off. For her, it's not just a checklist, it's a mission for her, because sometimes the stakes are higher. Like I said before, today is Mission Sunday. For a lot of folks, that means, hey, second collection to support the missions. But remember, back in August, we had that visiting priest from West Africa. He was telling you stories about what was going on in life in the new church communities out there. Let me tell you a mission story, one that's a little bit more personal. I grew up in North Central here in Troy. I went to St. Patrick's in Troy. And in the 7th grade, let's say a young man from the parish was ordained to serve Maryknoll. His name was Father Davy Jones. Not that Davy Jones. There's another Davy Jones, okay? Everybody reacts that way. I remember him, though. Yeah. But all the same, let's say he was being sent to Japan. So after ordination, he was going to language school for a while to pick up a little Japanese. We didn't speak much Japanese in North Central. And I know he came by visiting at St. Patrick's School, and he came in and visited the 7th grade where I was. And one of my classmates who was thinking actively about priesthood until he met his future wife at Troy High, that he asked Sister Leo Bernard, Sister, do you think we'll ever need missionaries in the United States? And she said, oh no, our churches are full and so are our schools. Hey, wow, things have changed a little, haven't they? I remember when I was in high school getting ready to take a driving test, my father would kind of drive me around Troy and have me drive just to get a little experience with things. And I could start in the north end and drive all the way through Troy. And I could pass St. Bonaventure, St. Augustine's, St. Patrick's, St. Peter's, St. Paul the Apostle, Our Lady of Victory, Christ Son of Justice up at RPI, St. Francis de Sales, St. Anthony's, St. Mary's, St. Jean-Baptiste, St. Lawrence's, St. Joseph's, St. William's, Holy Trinity, down by the steel mill, Sacred Heart, St. Michael's, and St. Jude's, all with serious Troy connections. Hey folks, at one time in my youth, we had 18 parishes in Troy. Yeah. And it's interesting because I kind of wonder, we have less than half of that now. We think about, say, just how things have changed, and think a little bit, let's say, about what had been happening. Now, this priest I knew who, as I met as a 7th grader, he came back years later after 35 years in Japan. Hey, through work of Maryknoll and other missionaries, young Japanese men were coming forward to be ordained as priests. They weren't needed as much in Japan anymore. They came back. He served down in Ossining at the Maryknoll Center for a number of years, and then he was released to serve in the Albany Diocese again. He came back to his old neighborhood. He came back to St. Patrick's, and before St. Patrick's closed in around 2011, he had said to me, Joe, we're down to about 50 people across 3 masses on the weekend. I don't know if you folks know St. Patrick's. They could hold up to 700 people. 15 people a mass. I mean, wow. Reminded me when I worked in New York when I first got out of college. It's like Grand Central Station at 10 p.m. on a Thursday night. Pretty quiet. Father Jones explained to me that in a certain day, there was a thought about, let's have a church in every neighborhood. But we look at it now and wonder, gee, was that a sustainable decision? Could that have worked out? Well, maybe because there's a difference between maintaining parishes and having mission be the center of your parish. I had friends in all those parishes, from all those parishes in Troy in my high school graduating class. I knew kids from every parish there. I used to feel so much for so many of them when their parishes closed. But I also used to feel for the people who, say, never had the chance to hear about Jesus. The folks maybe they felt their faith got lukewarm over the years, or folks who never ever heard about Jesus before. How the experience of church could have benefited them. Maybe we still have time to think about our parishes and how we can be centered on mission, sharing the saving word of Jesus, bringing Jesus to other people, looking for ways to extend ourselves, to look not so much inwardly at our lives, but at all those who are hungry and waiting to be fed, all those who are seeking the Lord. We still have time to do that. This is Mission Sunday. Maybe we should be thinking more about mission and less about maintenance, sharing the word of Jesus, being missionary to others. Bishop Scharfenberger has written a few times in The Evangelist about that Remade for Mission program where he's looking to get the parishes thinking about their futures. I know I've talked about that over the last few weeks. You might ask, what's our stake in this? Well, going to the gospel, thinking about the story of the widow who was persisting the corrupt judge. She needed a response from him. Folks, today I ask you for a response. I ask you, if when you take the bulletin home today, we have an insert in there that has an article from the Evangelist, a recent article. Please read through that. It's a good article. It has a lot of detail about that. Read about that. And we'll have word for people in our parishes, St. Jude's and St. Michael's, in the coming weeks and months. Today I ask you to read the article. Pray for mission. Pray for the success of our communities. Pray for our mission future. Because, sometimes the stakes are higher.